from the station you count on for local news that matters. This is KARK4 News at 5.
And we begin with breaking news this evening. Reports of an accident on the Arkansas River late this afternoon causing major traffic issues. Good evening, and thank you for joining us, everybody. I'm Bob Clausen.
And I'm Ashley Katz. Just within the last hour, we have gotten reports of a boat or a barge that hit the bridge today. And for the very latest, we want to go live to Josh Berry, who is at the scene. And Josh, some confusion about what happened. What can you tell us from the scene?
Well, Bob, Ashley, I'm not sure if you can hear it right now, but we're standing just beneath the I-30 bridge over the Arkansas River, and you can hear the hum of rush hour traffic back to normal now. Many of the people that were stuck when I-30 was shut down are probably getting home just about now to see exactly why. The bridge opened up about 20 minutes ago after a crews determined everything was safe here. Initial reports to the highway department and local authorities were that a barge had possibly struck the bridge and one of these pillars that you see out here. Sheriff's deputies and Game and Fish, along with the highway officials, responded to the bridge when we were out here. Since we've been out here, there have been boats circling around. They're done now, but Pulaski County Sheriff's Office boats had highway officials inside checking the pillars and checking the bridge out, making sure everything was safe. They determined that a barge struck one of the bumpers you see out there protecting the bridge supports, and they determined that the bridge was not actually struck. Either way, they had some checking around to do to make sure everything was safe to go. Again, they opened the bridge and opened I-30 about 20 minutes ago, but this didn't affect just traffic here on I-30. It's affected traffic everywhere around this immediate area. Much of downtown littered with cars trying to find a way through. A lot of them, and I'm told that the Broadway bridge was actually at a standstill at one point because everybody was trying to find a way to get around and avoid much of this traffic. But again, a barge struck one of the protectors out there, not the actual bridge, and everything is safe at this point, and traffic on I-30 has opened up back to normal. That's the report from out here. We're live in Little Rock. Josh Berry, KARK4 News.
Josh, thanks for that update. We want to take a quick look at this just to give you some perspective about where it happened. You're looking at the I-30 bridge here, those protective barriers that Josh was talking about here that barge actually hit, causing those traffic problems today. Over here we have the Broadway bridge. So let's take a look at what traffic looks like at this moment. Right now, traffic open, moving fine across the bridge, but you see this red here, that is where we were having some problems. And earlier, this map looked a lot different. There was a gridlock, and even the Broadway bridge, like you heard Josh say there, having some problems tonight. But we can tell you traffic moving, probably still slow going for at least the time being, but at least folks will be home in time for dinner tonight and hopefully safe. Bob.
Shelter in place. Close, lock, and move away from doors.
Wow. Tense moments in D.C. Shots fired outside the U.S. Capitol today as Congress continues to debate over the government shutdown. Police swarming Capitol Hill. That after a woman rams her car into a White House barricade. Moments later, gunfire erupts.
I heard about 6 gunshots, very rapid succession. Blam, 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 blam. Right before that, maybe 5 Capitol police cars came roaring up down Pennsylvania Avenue, down through the parking lot here, towards the monument over there on 1st Street. And shortly thereafter, I heard those gunshots.
And the whole building, Capitol building, placed on lockdown. An hour later, 20 police chased the suspect. Sources say they fired at her, killing her. Capitol police officer also injured in this confusion unfolding today at and around the U.S. Capitol in D.C.
And during this lockdown today, 2nd District Congressman Tim Griffin tweeted from a cloakroom there, "Gunshots at Capitol." Well, then just a minute later, he tweeted, "Stop the violent rhetoric, President Obama, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi." And after an uproar on Twitter, Griffin's office issued this statement now that you're going to see. "The victims and their families are in my thoughts and prayers, and the shooting today is a terrible and inexcusable tragedy and an act of terrorism. No one but the shooter is to blame," end quote.
And the shooting further delayed the solution to the government shutdown. Potentially thousands more Arkansas employees will be told to go home if the government closure continues. And right now it appears as if it will. KARK4's David Goins joining us now at the latest on furloughs. Hey, David, what do we do today?
Well, Bob, we've got brand new numbers in. 673 state employees are now furloughed. That number will not go down, only up if the freeze in D.C. continues much past this weekend. That coming from the Department of Finance and Administration. A variety of employees from multiple state agencies, as we've reported, have already been sent home or been told to work fewer hours since the shutdown started on Tuesday. That number today from DFNA still hovering just at close to 700 now. A good chunk of that coming from the Department of Human Services. But a warning tonight from Richard Weiss, who heads up DFNA, to prepare for a bigger negative impact soon.
We think we've got it somewhat stable for about a week, maybe a week and a half, maybe even up to 2 weeks. By the end of the next weekend, there will be at least 2,000 people or more that will have to be furloughed.
And go out a few weeks. Weiss says that number will quickly escalate to 10,000 employees. That number could rise as high as 18,000 just in a few weeks. The reason? The little extra money that the state has to keep more people on the job simply is running out. They don't have enough money to make up for what they're losing from the feds. Back to you.
All right, David, thank you very much. Little Rock Air Force Base also feeling the effects of the government shutdown. Hundreds of civilian employees furloughed this week. Today, the commander of the base speaking for the first time publicly about all this.
And KARK4's Aaron Nolan joins us more with what he had to say today. Aaron?
Yeah, Ashley, Bob, Colonel Patrick Radigan from the Little Rock Air Force Base in Jacksonville using words like unfortunate, disruptive to describe the shutdown's effect on his base, but he says he is hopeful something, possibly a resolution, will happen soon. Out of the 625 civilians who work on this base, 350 were sent home this week, furloughed without a paycheck. The positions remain open with airmen covering some of those jobs. Colonel Radigan says he doesn't know what will happen as the shutdown continues, but he is adamant about getting the overall job of the Air Force done.
This uncertainty is extremely disruptive to the Department of Defense. The Air Force is attempting to minimize the negative impacts on must-pay bills such as our ongoing operations in Afghanistan.
Now, the colonel says it's up to Congress to make a decision if these 350 civilians will be back paid for their time on the furlough. As he ended the press conference today, Colonel Radigan thanked the community of Jacksonville, the surrounding businesses in Jacksonville, for their continued support, and he asked for more help as his civilians and as his airmen and airwomen need it. Bob.
All right, Aaron, thank you very much.
Well, many Arkansans in many different areas rely on government funding. Another program here in the state that is impacted by the shutdown is the Arkansas Food Bank. KARK4's Jocelyn Tovar found out what officials there are doing to make sure people who need help are still getting it.
Well, Ashley, most of the programs will continue to be funded. So far, the food bank says they're making ends meet. But if this shutdown stretches into multiple weeks, that's when we could see issues. Dozens line up outside Lifeline Church every morning, relying on their food pantry to help put meals on the table. People like Wendy McPhee.
Thank God for this service, because it's really a blessing and a helping for me.
The Lifeline relies on help, too. Help from the Arkansas Food Bank to supplement what they receive from donations.
No one knows how long this is going to last.
Chief Development Officer Jennifer Martinez-Belt says they're making ends meet for now.
For 2 weeks or so, we're fine. We'll use our reserve to actually, feed those in need.
But at the end of this month may be a different situation, something the food bank says they'll deal with when they need to. Until then, they said it's operating normally.
Our agencies aren't reporting that they're seeing a real influx of more people, but you don't know what's going to happen at the end of the month.
So far, they haven't noticed a drastic change in the amount of people who need a shelter's assistance for help.
As long as I got the man upstairs, I'll make it. He'll find a way for me.
Now, the food bank would not tell me which specific programs would be first to see the effects of this shutdown. They say they're hoping it doesn't come to that. Back to you.
And that is the lasting gift that his life and his death gave us. For taking the time.
A big celebration in Heber Springs this morning, marking the 50th anniversary of the dedication of Greers Ferry Dam. President John F. Kennedy came from our nation's capital on this day in 1963 to highlight the importance of that landmark. KARK4's Dustin Barnes takes us to Cleburne County, where a famous Arkansas son remembered this day.
He gave an enormous amount of thought.
President Bill Clinton stands just a few feet away from where his predecessor and idol stood 50 years ago. Overlooking the Greers Ferry Dam, President John F. Kennedy dedicated the structure to the country and vowed it would attract industry and people years later.
I was 9 years old.
Cindy Pankey may not have remembered Mr. Kennedy's words, but she recalls all the excitement around the city and her grandmother insisting that she get up close.
She made sure that I got through the crowd and that I touched him on the arm.
Although she's moved away, Pankey says like 50 years ago, she couldn't miss this.
He could not have known that he just had that long to live.
President Kennedy died a month after his trip to Cleveland County, but President Clinton says the fallen commander-in-chief's legacy lives on right here.
In death, he became for all the rest of us the symbol of the eternal future, the symbol of what we always had to become, and that America was always going to be a country on the move.
Appreciating Kennedy's ability to see how this one project would impact lives then, now, and years to come. In Heber Springs, Dustin Barnes, KARK4 News.
And leaders highlighted the economic impact of the dam, bringing millions of tourist dollars. From one former president to another, we're going to hear what JFK had to say 50 years ago on this day while dedicating Greers Ferry Dam.
Plus,
there, people from everywhere, and we had the president there.
why he wanted the entire country to know about this dam built in Arkansas.
Continued across Arkansas today. Both our high and low temperature much above our averages for this time of year. In fact, the heat index this afternoon running anywhere from 90 to 95. More summer heats in the forecast, but we've got fall weather in there too. Let you know when to expect it in just a couple minutes.